The headline had created quite a stir in Japan. Japan shocked, Filipinos speak English like natives. Dr. Sarah Chen, a linguistic anthropologist who had spent years studying the global spread of English, found herself intrigued. While she had documented English usage across dozens of countries, something about this particular case seemed different. An entire nation demonstrating such widespread fluency was unusual enough to warrant investigation. The surprise wasn't merely about grammatical correctness or extensive vocabulary. According to the reports, it was about ease, flow, and naturalness. English in the Philippines apparently wasn't just an academic subject confined to classrooms. It was woven into the fabric of daily life. Dr. Chen booked her ticket to Manila, determined to understand this unique linguistic phenomenon. She wanted to observe how English functioned in authentic settings, far from the polished veneer of international business districts. The tropical humidity hit Dr. Chen the moment she stepped off the plane at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The immigration officer greeted her in flawless English, his accent clear and his manner professional. Signs and announcements throughout the terminal were all in English, but she reminded herself that this was standard for international airports worldwide. The real test would come outside these walls, in the heart of Manila itself. She hailed a taxi and plunged into the city's magnificent chaos. The sensory overload was immediate, jeepney horns blaring, vendors calling out, throngs of people navigating crowded sidewalks. What caught her attention immediately were the billboards and street signs, nearly all in English. She found herself waiting for the moment when the real linguistic landscape would reveal itself, when English would fade and local languages would dominate. She was about to discover how wrong that assumption was. Trapped in Manila's infamous traffic, Dr. Chen struck up a conversation with her taxi driver, a middle-aged man named Manny. He grinned when she commented on the congestion. "Oh, ma'am, you have no idea. This is actually a light day," he said with a chuckle that suggested years of patience with Manila's roads. Their conversation meandered naturally. Manny spoke about his children, his voice filling with pride when he mentioned his daughter. "She wants to work abroad someday. Her English is even better than mine," he said, a mixture of pride and melancholy in his tone. "The young ones, they grow up with it now. For them, it's just normal, like breathing." What struck Dr. Chen wasn't just Manny's fluency, but the ease and authenticity of their exchange. The traffic jam transformed from an inconvenience into an opportunity for genuine connection. Manny had inadvertently shown her something crucial. In Manila, English wasn't merely a utilitarian tool. It was personal, alive, and deeply human. The following morning, Dr. Chen visited a local coffee shop popular with students and young professionals. The barista, a young woman with a bright smile, greeted her with effortless warmth. "Good morning, ma'am. What can I get for you today?" Her English was casual, confident, and completely natural. As Dr. Chen waited for her order, she observed a group of university students at a nearby table. They switched seamlessly between English and Tagalog, their code switching so fluid it seemed unconscious. They used English for academic terminology, for jokes, and for pop culture references. "The deadline is so unfair, it's totally cray-cray," one laughed, prompting sympathetic groans from her companions. The language they spoke was hybrid and dynamic, not quite American English, not quite British English, but something distinctly their own. At another table, a young man video called family members abroad, speaking entirely in English with an intimacy that belied the formal reputation of the language. "Don't worry, Mom. We're all doing fine here. Yes, everyone is healthy," he assured her, his tone warm and caring. Dr. Chen realized she was witnessing something significant. For countless Filipinos, English was the language of family, the thread connecting loved ones across vast oceans. She struck up a conversation with Angela, a literature student working on her laptop. When Dr. Chen mentioned her research, Angela's eyes lit up. "We have our own way of using it, you know," she explained thoughtfully. "It's not American or British. It's Filipino English. It has our flavor, our heart, our personality." She was absolutely right. What Dr. Chen was hearing wasn't imitation or mimicry. It was evolution. English in the Philippines was creative, expressive, and unmistakably Filipino. The language served as a tool for opportunity, certainly, but also as a profound medium for self-expression and identity. In that bustling coffee shop, Dr. Chen understood that English was alive, playful, and deeply personal to Filipinos. She was no longer merely a detached observer. She was captivated. To further test her emerging theory, Dr. Chen ventured to a bustling local market, a palenque. She had expected English to vanish here, to be replaced entirely by Tagalog and regional dialects. The market, after all, was where locals shopped for daily necessities, far from any tourist trail. Once again, her assumptions proved incorrect. A fruit vendor called out to her, "Best mangoes in Manila, ma'am. Sweet, very sweet. You try, you buy." His pitch was in English, delivered with theatrical flair and a knowing smile. Around her, vendors joked and haggled with customers in English. Mothers taught their children English words for vegetables and fruits, turning grocery shopping into an impromptu language lesson. Dr. Chen watched, fascinated, as language acquisition happened in real time. English wasn't confined to the educated elite or reserved for formal occasions. It was a language of the people, used for haggling over prices, sharing jokes, teaching children, and building connections. The market revealed something crucial. English fluency in the Philippines was the norm, not the exception. The language had permeated every level of society, creating a shared linguistic space that everyone felt comfortable inhabiting, regardless of social class or educational background. The market visit marked a turning point in Dr. Chen's understanding. English in the Philippines wasn't just present, it was thriving as a fundamental part of daily life across all social strata. The question that dominated Dr. Chen's thoughts became, how did this happen? The answer, she discovered, lay in a complex interplay of history, policy, and economics. The American colonial period, which began in 1898, established English as the primary medium of instruction throughout the Philippine education system. Thousands of American teachers, known as the Thomasites after the ship that brought them, didn't merely teach English as a subject. They taught science, mathematics, history, and every other subject entirely in English, fundamentally reshaping the archipelago's linguistic landscape. This policy continued even after Philippine independence in 1946. English became the language of government, law, higher education, and official communication. Generation after generation grew up learning in English, reading American textbooks, and absorbing American cultural products. The language evolved from a colonial imposition into something far more complex. In a nation with over 170 distinct languages and dialects, English also served a unifying function. When Filipinos from different regions met, English often became their common ground, the neutral territory where communication could flow freely. The late 20th and early 21st centuries brought new reinforcements. The rise of the internet, the ubiquity of American pop culture, and the explosive growth of the business process outsourcing industry all strengthened English's position. Call centers and BPO companies now employ millions of Filipinos, all requiring high-level English proficiency. The economic incentive to master English became immense. History had laid the foundation, Dr. Chen realized, but modern economics and global culture continued building upon it. English had transformed into an indispensable part of Filipino identity. What impressed Dr. Chen most wasn't just the widespread fluency, it was how Filipinos used English. They had made it their own, infusing it with warmth, courtesy, and creativity that reflected deep cultural values. Phrases like, "for a while," meaning "please hold," or the ubiquitous honorifics, "sir" and "ma'am," reflected Filipino concepts of respect and politeness. The language here was expressive, emotional, and full of care. The common question, "Did you eat already?" wasn't merely about food. It was an expression of genuine concern for another's well-being. Filipinos played with English inventively, creating new words, blending it with local dialects in creative ways. This wasn't poor English or a sign of incomplete mastery. It was the opposite. As any linguist knew, you had to know a language exceptionally well to play with it so creatively and have others understand you. Filipino English was welcoming, personal, and deeply human. It was, Dr. Chen thought, a language that smiled. Her journey had evolved beyond grammar and pronunciation. She was now documenting a unique cultural fusion, a story of how English in the Philippines expressed the heart of a nation. It was a narrative of ownership, adaptation, and innovation. Filipino English proficiency had become a powerful national asset and a bridge to the world. It enabled millions to work abroad, sending vital remittances that supported families and drove economic development. Filipino workers' adaptability and communication skills were keys to their global success. The BPO industry thrived not just on cost advantages, but on the exceptional quality of Filipino English. Call center agents were renowned for their empathy, patience, and cross-cultural understanding. This linguistic and emotional skill set had become a premium export. English proficiency allowed Filipinos to participate in global conversations without intermediaries or translators. It was a form of soft power, giving the Philippines a strong and clear voice in international forums. Domestically, English opened access to vast stores of information, entertainment, and educational resources. It fostered a globally aware, cosmopolitan population. While it undeniably challenged the vitality of some local languages, it also brought immense opportunities. The Filipino relationship with English was complex and sometimes contentious, but it was undeniably a source of national strength, connecting the scattered islands to each other and to the world beyond. As her research trip drew to a close, Dr. Chen reflected on what she had learned. The Japanese headline that had started her journey was right to be shocked by Filipino fluency, but it had fundamentally missed the point. Filipinos didn't speak English like natives of England or America. They spoke it as Filipinos, with their own accent, their own expressions, their own soul. They had embraced the language, certainly, but more importantly, they had transformed it. Dr. Chen's journey had become about people, not just linguistic patterns. She had shared laughter with Manny in his taxi, debated contemporary literature with Angela in the coffee shop, and haggled good-naturedly over mangoes in the market. These were moments of genuine human connection, made possible by a shared language, but enriched by cultural understanding. Her respect for the Filipino people and their linguistic journey had grown immeasurably. As her plane lifted off from Manila, Dr. Chen gazed down at the sprawling metropolis below. She understood now that the story of English wasn't just about the language's global spread, but about how diverse cultures adapted, enriched, and made it their own. The Philippines represented a compelling chapter in that ongoing story, a model of how to be simultaneously deeply local and genuinely global. English here wasn't just a second language or a colonial remnant. It had become part of the national soul, spoken with a distinctive smile, building bridges and carrying dreams across oceans. Dr. Chen left the Philippines with more than research notes and interview recordings. She left with a new perspective on language, culture, and human adaptability. The story of English in the Philippines, she knew, was one worth telling to the world. Her respect for this linguistic achievement was now both professional and profoundly personal.